This is a basic instructional video for those new to guns or unfamiliar with different types of handguns. In this video I'll show you how to tell if a handgun is loaded and how to properly unload it and render it safe for handling. Now first, a warning. If you encounter any handgun and are not comfortable and proficient in handling it, do not pick it up. Do not handle it. Do not even touch it. Call the authorities. I have three example handguns here: a 1911 style Smith & Wesson, a full-size Ruger SR9 semi-automatic with a loaded chamber indicator and other external safety features, and a compact Kahr CW9 with no visible safety features. Now these weapons, while they're not a comprehensive display of all the weapons on the market, they do represent examples of typical safety features found in many common handguns. So before I get started, 3 rules. Number 1, always consider every handgun to be loaded and dangerous. Always. That means anytime you set it down and pick it up, anytime someone hands you a weapon, anytime you find a weapon, always consider it loaded and double check. Number 2, always keep your finger off the trigger. The only time you put your finger in the trigger is when you're ready to shoot something or someone. Otherwise, keep your finger off the trigger. It can't shoot unless your finger's on the trigger. And number 3, always point the barrel of the gun in a safe direction. Don't ever point it at you or anybody else. Don't point it at something that could, where the bullet could ricochet off and hurt somebody. And keep in mind that if a bullet comes out of a gun of a high caliber, 45 or medium strong calibers, 9mm, 380s, even 22s, a bullet can travel a mile or more. So you have to consider what's within a mile of where you're pointing the barrel of your gun. So always point it in a safe direction and be careful. Alright, so those 3 rules out of the way, let's get to our weapons. I'm going to move 2 of them to the side and we'll deal with them one at a time. First of all, a 1911 style pistol. Now, this is actually a replica. This is not a real gun. It's plastic. You can't tell from a distance, and barely can tell on the video, that this is not actually real. The only way that anybody handling it could tell is that a lot of things don't actually work. The levers and stuff don't actually work. But for the purpose of our demonstration, this will work just fine. Now, a 1911 style is indicated by this external hammer in the back that comes back. With this hammer, and I'll safety check this even though it's not a real gun, I'll double check, okay, is the hammer is what strikes a mechanism inside that hits the primer in the round of ammunition. The primer ignites, explodes the gunpowder in it, and it propels the bullet out the barrel of the gun. So this clicks like that, and bang, the gun goes off. 1911 style handguns have 3 potential safety features, and they're not found on every single one, and usually they have only 2 of the 3 on there, if they have them at all. So what you may encounter are a thumb safety, which will be a lever somewhere up in this area. Many of them have them on both sides, an ambidextrous thumb safety. This is where the person could click the safety up or down to either allow the weapon to fire or to lock the trigger so that the hammer will not fire. Some 1911s also have what's called a grip safety. It'll be a little part in the back that sort of rises up, and as your palm presses against it, it presses it in, and that allows the trigger to fire. Some will have both, many will have just one. Other weapons of the 1911 style will have a decocking mechanism, which looks like a safety lever, but it's usually lower. Instead of being up on the slide, it's a little bit lower down here and larger. What the decocking mechanism does is takes a loaded and cocked weapon, if you see with the hammer back, and it allows, in pressing the lever, it allows the hammer to come down without actually firing the gun, so that we could be carried this way without the hammer being open and the possibility of dirt, debris, and whatever getting inside there. The user would then pull the trigger, which would cause the hammer to come all the way back, and then fire once it's decocked. Don't assume that any of these safety mechanisms work 100% of the time. They don't. There are times when they may not work, so never assume that they're going to work. Anyway, those are the three safety mechanisms that you'll find on a 1911 weapon. If you see one with the hammer back, it's cocked. It's cocked. Now, you can never tell when you're looking at a handgun that's cocked whether there's actually ammunition in the chamber. So like this one, it could be cocked, but it's not dangerous. But you don't know that because you can't tell if there's a bullet inside there or not. So that's why we always assume that the gun is loaded, because to assume otherwise is playing a deadly game with yourself. So how do we unload a 1911 weapon that you find? Well, there are 3 steps to this. Number 1, we're going to drop the magazine. The magazine is simply that, a magazine of bullets that are held in the grip of the gun. Right here behind the trigger, somewhere behind the trigger. It'll either be below, or in some models it's up a little bit higher. There'll be a button. Occasionally it's on both sides. Sometimes it's just on the right side for a right-handed gun. When you press that, usually with your thumb, it'll cause the magazine to drop out. Alright? Now keep in mind, there are 2 places where there's ammunition in a handgun. One is in the magazine, the other is in the chamber. So when this one comes out, there may already be a bullet in the chamber. That doesn't come out with the magazine. That stays in there. That's why the gun is very dangerous. A lot of people assume they've dropped the magazine, that the weapon is now clear. It is not. There may be a round in the chamber with the bullet in the barrel ready to fire. And in most guns, if you pull the trigger, even when the magazine is out, if there's a round in the chamber, it will fire. So how do we check whether or not there's a round in the chamber and clear it out to make the gun safe? Well, there are 2 parts to the gun. The upper part here is called the slide, because it slides back and forth, and the frame is the bottom part with the trigger and the grip. We slide it back, and once it slides back, in a real gun, when there's a round in there, it'll pop out of here, and I'll show you that in a second. And then you examine it, look, and the weapon is safe. So I'm going to set that aside and show you on a real gun. This is not a toy, this is a Ruger SR9, how that's done. The Ruger is a semi-automatic. This is a 9mm. This will apply to all the Ruger semi-automatics in the SR series, the SR9, the SR40, the SR9C, and the SR40C. It'll be very similar to some other weapons that are out by Smith & Wesson. The Springfield XD is similar, although it doesn't have a thumb safety, it has a grip safety, and some other weapons. All right. The Ruger's big on external safety features, so let's take a look at some of those right here. First of all, in the Ruger, remember rule number 1, always assume the weapon is loaded. Well, Ruger has a loaded chamber indicator. This is a little lever that when there is a round, a bullet, if you will, in the chamber ready to fire, whether or not the gun is cocked, this indicator will pop up red. You can feel it with your finger. You can see it. It is red. So in this weapon, even if you just saw it and didn't pick it up, you could tell right away there is a round in the chamber of this weapon. Think about that. There's a bullet in this gun ready to fire. Ruger also has what's called a striker status indicator. Now that's this little, it's tough to see here, but it's a little black circle in there, a little black piece of plastic or indicator, that when you see that, that means that the gun has been cocked and that round that's in the chamber is ready to fire if we pull the trigger. So the gun could be cocked with no bullet in the chamber, but in this case it's cocked because we can see that striker indicator, and we know that there's ammunition in it because the loaded chamber indicator is up. Ruger, like some weapons, also has a thumb safety, and that goes up or down here. Usually when you're holding the weapon, it's meant so that you can turn the safety on or off with it. Now, when the safety is up, in this case, Ruger puts a white dot there, meaning safe. When the safety lever is down on most weapons, that takes the safety off. And in this case, they have some red that you can see there, and the old phrase, red is dead, meaning this weapon will fire. With it in the safe mode, we can't pull the trigger. It physically blocks this trigger from pulling on this particular model. So we have a gun here. The safety is on, it's cocked, and there's ammunition in the chamber. The safety off, if I pull the trigger, this gun will fire. This is a dangerous weapon, so we need to unload it to make it less dangerous. The same procedures apply with this one, the 1911, and the Kahr that I'm going to show you. Basically the three-step procedure here. Alright, first of all, keep your finger off the trigger. It's not going to fire if the trigger is on. The safety can be on or off at this point. However, we will not be able to rack the gun with the safety on. So at some point we're going to have to take the safety off. Alright? Point it in a safe direction. We're going to drop the magazine. And the Ruger, the button is right there. Push the button, the magazine is going to come out. Ah, bullets in the magazine. These happen to be what are called snap caps, which are little plastic, not real bullets. They're fake bullets meant for training purposes. But if this came out, you'd see real bullets, which are going to look something like this. And I'll show you how to take them out of this magazine in a minute. So now, this one's out. However, there's still one in there, as seen by the loaded chamber indicator. So we've got to be very careful and get that one out in order to make this gun safe. Now, a Ruger SR series, the 9s and the 40s, and the 9C and the 40C, have an interesting feature that even if the safety is off and there's a round in the chamber, once you drop the magazine out, the gun will not fire the round that's in the chamber. Don't bet your life on it. It's a nice safety feature to have. It can be a great safety feature, or not if you don't like it. However, again, don't bet your life on it, because that's what you're betting, or someone else's life, that safety feature works all the time. But it's nice to know that it's there, and hopefully it works when you need it to work. But we need to get that round out of the chamber. Safety off. We're going to rack the slide, which is we're going to grip it very firmly on the back, particularly where it's got these serrations here where we can grab our thumb. Not in the front, because the bullet's going to come out of this hole right here that's going to open up. So we don't want to rack it here. We don't want to do it this way. Again, the bullet could kind of come at us. But grasp it firmly. We're going to pull it back. And as we pull it back, the gun is going to eject that round, and you're going to see it come flying out of there. And then I'll show you how to check the gun to make it safe. So we're going to pull it back. And there goes the round. And now we do a quick look. Okay, we don't see one there in the barrel. We don't see one down in here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to rack it, and we're going to press up the slide rack to hold the gun open. Push this up with my thumb. The gun stays open. It's held in place in that little groove by the slide lock. And now, again, we look in there. Never put your fingers in there. But I can see straight through, and I can see into the barrel that there's no bullet in there. This is what it was, and it came out. Now this gun is safe. So let's take a look at that once again very quickly for you. Ammunition in. The gun is now loaded and cocked. Loaded chamber indicator. Safety is off. It's cocked. This gun is hot. This gun's ready to go. We need to render this gun safe. First step, finger off the trigger. Drop the magazine. Take out the extra bullets. Now we got to get the one out of the chamber, rack the slide. That bullet comes out. Rack it again and lock it open. This gun is now safe. When you have bullets in the magazine, you want to clear those out as well. Well, they're generally not going to shoot unless the primer, which is that little circle in the back, gets struck very hard and ignites. But we want to take these bullets out. Coming out of a magazine, there's a spring in there that puts pressure on them and holds them in. So to get them out, you basically just have to push down a little bit and then pop them out. Some magazines are a little bit harder. You're going to have to take them out with one thumb at a time by holding them onto your thumb. This one, I can actually just pop them out. This magazine is empty. The bullets are here. Let's put those to the side. And this weapon is safe. Again, we double check. There's nothing in there. There's nothing in the magazine, so we're loading an empty magazine into the weapon. And it's now cocked. However, there's no round in there because it's an unloaded gun. Safety on, put it off to the side. Alright, let's take a look at the Kahr CW9. Now this weapon has no visible safety features. You can't tell if there's any ammunition in the gun. You can't tell if there's a round in the chamber. You can't tell if this gun is cocked and ready to fire if I pull the trigger. You'd have no idea what it is. So that's why it's very important to always assume that the weapon is loaded. Keep your finger off the trigger. The only way it's going to fire is to pull the trigger, but let's not do that. The Kahr is very similar. It's going to have the same process and the same look and feel to it in terms of the safety features and rendering it safe as many popular semi-automatic handguns in all calibers by brands and manufacturers such as Glock, KelTec, Steyr, Diamondback, some Berettas, the Sky CP2 is a popular one. Sig Sauer has double action only semi-automatics like this. They have 1911s as well. Taurus, H&K, High Point, which is a very low cost one that some people have. Again, you're going to see no safety features. All right, so we need to render this safe. Okay, it's basically not going to shoot itself generally. Let's hope it never just fires just spontaneously. That would be rare. So let's render it safe. Same 3 steps, and that's drop the magazine, rack the slide, and check and get rid of any loaded round that's in there. Again, finger off the trigger, pointing in a safe direction, pressing the magazine release, drop it. Again, we have our fake bullets in here. These are called snap caps. They're just rubber tip with no gunpowder in them. We've got one in there, so that we're going to set aside. Now we need to get the one out of the chamber if it happens to be in there. Rack the slide and watch it pop out. And there it is, pops out. Okay, so that one's out. Now we need to make sure that there wasn't one stray one in there. So we rack it and push the slide lock up into the groove to hold the slide back. Now we can check. No round in the barrel there. Looking through, there's nothing inside the gun. This gun is now unloaded and rendered safe. We take the ammo we had and we're going to take it out of the magazine. Ammo's aside, empty magazine, empty gun. This is now safe. Now remember, always safety check every gun, every time you handle it. If somebody hands you this gun, double check it. If you're in a store and you're looking at a gun and you think you want to buy it, the first thing the gun dealer is going to do is he's going to do this, he's going to check this, he's going to rack it, make sure it's safe, and then he's going to hand you this gun, or he's going to put it on the counter. You should pick it up, do the same check, look inside, double check, no rounds. Okay, now I can evaluate the weapon. If I want to check the trigger pull, I'm not going to point it at the dealer. He's going to get really mad. Again, pointing in a safe direction, confirm with him, okay, if I pull the trigger, yes. Now you can check the gun and see if you like it. If you're not confident in handling and safety checking a gun, remember, again, don't touch it. Call the authorities. Always, no matter how long you're around guns, and you know this the longer you've been around guns, always practice safe gun handling. The one time you forget, the one time you assume the weapon is unloaded and fail to check it, that could be a deadly mistake. So always practice safe gun handling. And I thank you for watching.